Good morning. I am Chrissy Kim, a member of the Board of Trustees of Tahoma UU Congregation. As we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup, Nisqually, and Steilacoom ancestral lands. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We welcome all who are joining us with a longing for community, the hope for peace, and who are seeking justice. We are a diverse congregation which encourages each one who comes through our doors to find their own truth and belief. We invite all to join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and by love. You can find all of our program announcements this week in our e-news and listed on our church calendar. Here are some of the highlights this week. Immediately following the worship service, we'll host social time in a Zoom meeting room. We'll paste that link at the end of the worship service, or you can find it via the church calendar. As we wait, hopefully, for COVID levels to drop, our Coming Together team continues to work on guidelines and preparations for when COVID risk levels drop, and we can have multi-platform worship services in the sanctuary. In the meantime, we do have guidelines for small groups of 8 or less to meet in the sanctuary while COVID levels remain very high in Pierce County. And you can find details about small group meeting guidelines via the Coming Together link on the website. At the same link, you can find more information, including guidance provided by the Unitarian Universalist Association. This week is the first meeting for the Social Justice Discussion Plus Action Group. Let me try that again. The Social Justice Discussion Plus Action Group. And the meeting will discuss the book Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond. There are two options for meeting with the group, either via Zoom on Wednesday, November 17th, or in a small group gathering in person in the church sanctuary on Sunday, November 21st. To register for either of these gatherings, please see details in the e-news or on the church calendar page. This month's focus is on housing justice, with the book discussion this week, and a to-be-determined action on housing justice next month. Friends, please read through your e-news when it arrives in your inbox each week. It is the primary channel for you to stay connected and informed on all that is happening in our congregation. Our staff works hard to assure that your e-news contains all the news and information you ask for and expect. This week in the e-news, you can learn more about the 31 Days of Gratitude the Infinite Cups are facilitating on Facebook. Learn about the upcoming December Craft Day and find the registration link for the Associated Ministries Interfaith Celebration of Gratitude service that will be held on Zoom Tuesday, November 23rd. In this month of Thanksgiving, we have gratitude to you and for your ongoing financial support to our congregation that makes all of this possible. Our programs, our staff who create and facilitate the programs, and the connections that we make through our congregation. Now, let us join together in worship and visit Curiosity Land with Reverend Linda.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening words today are by Reverend Gary Kowalski. We gathered together for worship, to seek the truth, to grow in love, to join in service, to celebrate life's beauty and to find healing for its pain, to honor our kinship with each other and the earth, to create a more compassionate world, beginning with ourselves, to wonder at the mystery that gave us birth, to find courage for our journey's end, and to listen for the wisdom that guides us in the quietness of the moment. It is good to be together today.
I'm Janina Wright, your celebrant this morning. Please join me in what is typically our unison reading as Reverend Linda lights the chalice in our sanctuary. Words in the chat. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come.
My name's Nancy Slocum, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at Tahoma Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And this is our time for all ages. And today we're talking about curiosity. Curiosity. And I'm wondering what makes you curious. I'm guessing, do you know what curious means? Curious means you really want to know about stuff. You really want to learn things. And I think curiosity is just such a wonderful thing for people to have. I'm guessing that if each and everyone answered what makes them curious today, we would find that we're curious about all different kinds of things. It's a great way to be, always asking questions, always learning. Even adults like to keep learning and being curious. That is our time for all ages today. And I will leave you with these words that we use to sing kids out of the sanctuary when we go to our classes. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your hearts be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Nancy. Now is our time to offer our financial gifts to the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to donate to our congregation to support our church during this unprecedented time apart. You may follow the link on this slide, or click the link in the chat, or text your donation to support our church members and staff who are working to keep our congregation connected in new and dynamic ways. Every little bit helps, and while we are apart physically, our gifts are stronger together. And now the unison reading by Reverend Bill Graves as we dedicate the offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
My friends, I invite you into a few moments of quiet and reflection together. We'll come into a time of stillness after hearing these words by the poet Rosemary Watola Tromer. Her poem, How It Might Continue. Wherever we go, the chance for joy, whole orchards of amazement. One more reason to always travel with our pockets full of exclamation marks, so we might scatter them for others like apple seeds. Some will dry out, some will blow away, but some will take root and grow exuberant groves filled with long, thin fruits that resemble one hand clapping. So much enthusiasm as they flutter back and forth, that although nothing's heard and nothing's really changed, people everywhere for years to come will swear that the world is ripe with applause, will fill their own pockets with new seeds to scatter. Let us pause in stillness together. So may it be. Amen.
Our reading today is from Emergence, a speech from opening for Allied Media Conference in 2013 by Adrienne Mari Brown. Emergence is the way complex systems and patterns arise out of a multiplicity of relatively simple interactions. It emphasizes critical connections, authentic relationships, listening with the body and the mind. In emergence, the whole is a mirror of the parts. Fractal. The health of the cell is the health of the species and the planet. There are examples of emergence everywhere. Birds don't make a plan to migrate, raising resources to fund their way, packing for scarce times, mapping out their pit stops. They feel a call in their bodies and they must go. And they follow it, responding to each other, each bringing their adaptations. Clara reminded me today of the way of flocking, staying separate enough not to crowd each other, aligned enough to maintain a shared direction, and cohesive enough to always move towards each other. Destiny is a calling that creates a beautiful journey. Emergence is beyond what the sum of its parts could even imagine. A group of caterpillars and nymphs might not see flight in their future, but it's inevitable. It's destiny. Oak trees don't set an intention to listen to each other or agree to hold tight to each other when the next storm comes. Under the earth, always they reach for each other. They grow such that their roots are intertwined and create a system of strength, which is as resilient on a sunny day as it is in a hurricane. Dandelions don't know whether they are a weed or a brilliance, but each seed can create a field of dandelions. We are invited to be that prolific and to return fertility to the soil around us.
Thank you, Jonina. I love those images of connection that are sprinkled throughout that reading. Octavia Rahim asked, do you have the courage to be in the pause between what is no longer and what is not yet? I read this on Facebook this past week and was almost immediately irritated. Well, I take the point of it, right? I'm a minister. It's a spiritual practice. I get all of that. Still, no one seems to be mentioning that we've needed to have the courage to be in that pause for coming up on 2 years. There's only so much of that kind of pause, I have to say, that a person can take. Can I get an amen on that, friends? I trust you'll forgive me for starting out with that kind of an outburst, that kind of irritation and frustration, but I suspect that many of you are feeling the same thing I am. I want to see people in a casual way again. I want to not have to walk back to my car to get my mask when I forget it on my way into a store. I want to not be on my guard every minute about my health and worried about my loved one's health. I want you to be here in the sanctuary with me. And I want that to happen sooner rather than later. And yes, we continue to plan for what it's going to look like to come back into worship here. but it'll be changed dramatically from those halcyon days back in February of 2020. Remember February of 2020? When we hugged each other, when we came in and we laughed and we sang out loud together, big voices filling the room. We had coffee and people brought treats for after the service. We'll get something like that again, but it's going to take a little bit longer. And I just want to take a minute to say a bit more about that, because I know people are eager. Trust me, we on the staff and the board are eager too. The board at their meeting this week, this coming Thursday, will be considering the recommendations of the Coming Together team that's been meeting for many months, almost every week. And we'll be sharing what that plan looks like as soon as the board has signed off on it formally. I'll tell you that we're watching the recommendations, watching recommendations that you can find on covidactnow.org. Jonine is going to pop that into the chat, I think, covidactnow.org, to see when Pierce County drops below the critical designation. Right now, our county is reckoned to be in a critical phase, meaning that there's a high chance of transmission. We are getting close to it though, friends. It's coming soon that we'll launch our multi-platform worship services. That is online and in person. But we're here now, in this place, in this pause between no longer and what is not yet, in the muddle, in the middle. And what should we do? Well, I'm taking a cue from a favorite poet, Andrea Gibson, who uses they, them pronouns. They were responding to a question posed by a subscriber to their newsletter. It's called Things That Don't Suck. And it really is about things that don't suck, and it helps you. Are ministers supposed to say things that don't suck? Anyhow, in any case, most days, I have to say, in my life, I don't know how it is in yours. Oh, I'm sorry. She says in her newsletter, the question, the person asking the question says, most days the weight feels like too much, like fighting a losing battle. How can I find a balance between inner peace and activism without being swallowed whole by powerlessness and futility? Let me read that again. Most days the weight feels like too much, like fighting a losing battle. How can I find the balance between inner peace and activism without being swallowed whole by powerlessness and futility? This is in the neighborhood, I think, of where we are in the pandemic too, how to find the balance of risk and safety, of the need for companionship, and being mindful of the cost of spreading COVID. It's that balance point too, between no longer and not yet. Andrea's first piece of advice to the person asking this question and to the rest of us is to be curious, to ask questions and explore. I think to begin with, when we step into that kind of place, we have to acknowledge that there are some things we will never wholly grasp or discern fully. There's only so much that we can understand about the workings of the world overall. We cannot see the future, even though we might have a few really good hunches about what might happen. It's also just the nature of contingent being, the nature of being powerless to shape the forces of the world, to control what happens next. We are creatures who are powerless, in all honesty, to enact our will on the world. Anyone who has had a puppy knows this really well. Or if you've had a cat, or a partner, or a friend, we are limited much more than we think, and we know much less than we believe we do. And importantly, my experience is that we live our lives largely ignorant of this, believing we have powers of discernment and control beyond what we actually own. So what we need, I think, are a few tools and attitudes to help us step into curiosity land. And that first one, that first tool, is humility, with an acknowledgement that we are often powerless and perhaps more often clueless. That by itself will turn us toward a curious attitude. What do I need to know? What am I missing? Secondly, I think we need to lean into our interconnectedness. In her work in the world, Adrienne Marie Brown emphasizes that our ability to dig down to our connections to each other and in the world allow us to discover ways of being that are ultimately healing. Key to her understanding of emergent strategy is recognizing that we human beings are connected to the animals and plants and minerals and elements, all of what is. We are deeply embedded in a system that is beyond our ability to fully comprehend. But by seeing what is around us, by looking deeply, we can begin to perceive how to move forward. She writes, "Emergence is the way complex systems and patterns arise out of a multiplicity of relatively simple interactions. It emphasizes critical connections, authentic relationships, listening with the body and the mind." In her book, Emergent Strategies, she reminds us that we can shape the future by our actions. She says, "It is so important to fight for the future, get into the game, get dirty, get experimental." How do we create and proliferate a compelling vision of economies and ecologies that centers humans and the natural world over the accumulation of material? How do we do it? We embody, we listen, we release the idea of failure because everything is data. I don't know about you, but I feel comforted by this perspective, by this way of understanding where we are and where we might be going. Recognizing that we're always in the middle of the story. There is no beginning, there is no end, only grounding in this moment, only looking for the connections and discerning a way along to the next thing that helps. And the more we're able to live into this way of being in the world, the less anxiety we'll feel, the more we'll experience the now as a place of grounding, not of insecurity. The more that we see that there is never a pause between what is and what's next. It's only the doing, only the making, only being in the moment. There's one more thing, and it's lifted up by one of Andrea's new poems from their book, You Better Be Lightning, which was just released this week. And it's called Note to the Stranger 6 Feet Away. There was never not a bridge from your chest to mine. My heartbeat was always the sound of your feet walking toward me. I can't believe how many years I lived without knowing the air you were breathing out was the air I was breathing in. Forgive me for not saying thank you before our lungs had reason to hide. Do you pray more now than you did? I pray all the time. I pray to the big bang and to the tiny bang and to the bangs we'll all have to cut ourselves so we can see only so we can see what beauty can only be seen from 6 feet away. A giraffe's neck is 6 feet long. A decade from now, will I remember the week I spent wondering if I could hug a giraffe's neck and not get sick if the giraffe coughed? I don't want to forget anything about this, especially not how it feels to worry about everyone I love at the same time. So much of the world was already doing that. If every heart-worthy novelist weeps for the days before killing off a beloved character, God must have spent centuries sobbing before pressing a pen to the page of this year. I think the final piece about being in this moment and being curious, how to be in this moment between what was and what's next, is also to be sure that we've all be sure to find the gratitude for what is and what has been. The recognition that we've all been breathing each other's breath all this time, for example. The ability to pause to say thank you to those around us, those with whom we have conspired, who we have breathed with. If I'm honest, I'm not sure we've ever actually been out of the woods. It seems likely to me that we've always been in this kind of moment, only we didn't know that every moment was this kind of moment. What may help us, and what I commend to you, is to stay curious, to keep looking more deeply to see what might be there, what possibilities abide, to stay connected, and to live with gratitude every day and in all ways. Welcome to Curiosity Land. Amen. Let us pause now for a few moments to set an intention for the week ahead. If there's something in our service today that has touched you, that has moved you, I invite you to set an intention for how you will carry it out into the world. So may it be. Amen. Let us go out into the week to come, remembering this: to stay curious, to keep looking more deeply, to see what might be present in any moment of any day, to stay connected, and to live with gratitude this day and every day. So may it be. Amen.
Now is the time we extinguish our chalice. As Linda does this in the sanctuary, please join me in the unison reading lyric words in the chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now our closing blessing song. Linda, did you want to say something?
I am going to say something. I'm going to tell you that Tim Dyson is here in our sanctuary and he's going to sing for us right after I put on my mask and step away. Maybe. There we go.
Hi, everyone. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. You I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.